Welcome to the very first episode of Bama Blue Dots. I'm Kat,
And I'm Michelle.
and we're so glad that you joined us this week.
This sort of came about after we just had some really good, thoughtful discussions and, wishing there could be more community for Alabamians who feel, forgotten or disenfranchised by our deep, very deep Republican state and local governments. It was kind of an interesting way we kind of came about this. I think we were on the phone together for the second time ever in just a month's time. And we were getting to know each other a little bit better and talking kind of politics. And I got to hear the fire and passion in what she was talking about. And I was like, hey, have you ever thought about doing a podcast?
So
And
we
she
went,
just kind of stops and was like, what? Yeah.
let's go get margaritas and discuss this further. And then by the time I finished my first margarita, I was like, sold. Let's do it.
Yeah. I tried it with my husband a few months ago and it just really didn't kind of like pan out. He's busy. So we just kept putting off. And so I've been thinking about it because there's things I want to talk about. I feel it's good to have women representing that it's not just a man's sport, it's a woman's sport too. And that we do need to be involved. We need to have more representation of women in blue in the South because people don't think that exists. And sometimes we don't even think we exist. It's good to have that kind of relatable connection to somebody.
For sure. What made you blue? Like, what really made you have this passion for change in politics in the state?
Yeah, so I've always been a Democrat. I grew up in a very non-political family, but being out on my own and struggling even in the early 2000s and stuff like that, I just the Democratic message always kind of resonated with me where it was about community. But this past year, I've really kind of doubled down. I have a very unique skill set, so I've been using that to fight fascism with my knowledge, and that's what really got me into it this past year. What about you?
So I'm very, very, very lucky. I was not raised in a super conservative household. My extended family is all basically New England or New York, especially my mom's side's all New England. My grandparents would be rolling over in their graves if I had become anything but yeah, a far left liberal. So for me, I always sort of felt like the odd man out down here growing up. Even as a kid in high school, I paid attention to politics. And, at the time it was early 2000s and no one was really paying attention. And I remember being kind of feeling like the only kid that was paying attention and was seeing the problems that existed. And now I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I thought it was bad back then. So for me, it's kind of, I'm ready to start using my voice to try to build community and really hope to fight for change in this state because it feels like Alabama's been kind of in a race to the bottom for years and we need to turn this around. And I think that the best way to do that is by connecting with others and forming a sense of community here and letting people know that there are other people out there like us. And so with that being said, let's dive right in because holy crap, what a week to start a podcast.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Even just yesterday, the news cycle has been absolutely insane. They're recording this on Wednesday, November 19th. So all of this is based on the information we have at this point. We're going to start with a recurring weekly segment we're going to call our weekly WTFs. So, Michelle, what made you say WTF this week?
Oh boy. Between Bubba Clinton and Bubba the horse.
I have talked at length about how I wish we could go back to the 90s, how I missed the 90s. This is not what I was talking about.
Yeah, no,
A Bill Clinton scandal was not what I meant.
not at all. Oh my goodness.
I do love that Epstein's brother came out to clarify, like, no, Bubba was not Bill Clinton. We had that 24 hours where the internet was on fire and the memes were just so
Delicious.
unhinged.
They were delicious.
So unhinged.
Mm.
I do like that he came out and clarified it was not Bill Clinton. He didn't say that, oh no, it didn't happen or it was all
Yeah,
a
it was
joke.
not a no.
That's the only thing he cleared up was that it wasn't Bill Clinton. But yeah, the Donica Lewinsky we all owe that woman such an apology as a society. That poor woman, she probably has just been living her life and then that all came up. I also feel really bad for Chelsea. Can you imagine your dad being in the news for that twice?
Man.
Like, I would die.
She's probably been through it though because of
Well,
like
she has
the
been.
years of letter emails that we had to hear from every standing Republican forever. Like they just can't let things go, and her mom just being like drug from
Mhm.
2016. Still to this day, you'll hear butter emails, and it's yeah,
I will say there is something poetic in that it is potentially a bunch of emails that takes is taking Trump down. There's
yes,
something really poetic to that.
it really is like it's like karma and the universe just said, oh man, like it's our time.
I feel like the South Park writers are in control at this point.
It's been years since I have waited on bated breath for something to drop. Normally, I'm a big South Park fan, have been for years, and Simpsons, all that. Grew up with that. I'm like 20, 30 years in already. But like I'm one of those people like I'll wait until the season ends and then
Mhm.
I'll binge it all, and watch it in like from after that
Yeah.
point because I don't like waiting. Now I can't wait. Like I'm like, is it the right Thursday? Oh my God, let's watch it,
Oh my god, there isn't one this week, and I'm so upset because God only knows what they would have done with
My
this.
goodness, yes.
And, like, I've never been a huge like, South Park was always kinda like that filler show, like, if there's nothing else on, I'll turn it on, but I never, like, watched it regularly. I know who the basic characters are, but
Mhm.
again, I've never followed it. This season, I've been watching, like, "Is it on this week? Are they gonna
Yeah.
do it this week? Are they gonna do it this week?"
Mhm.
Anyway, so another big thing that made me scream WTF this week is Chuck Schumer. What the hell with that bill? You shut the government down for a month because we were not going to let go of Medicaid and Medicare. Like that was something that was really important. That was mere hill to die on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they just pass it through without the Medicaid and Medicare expansion.
Yeah, yeah, it was a
The
promise to vote it
credit,
in
but a
December.
promise to vote on it from the
Not in
Republicans.
writing, no, it's just
A trust
verbal
me, bro.
yeah.
It was a
Huh,
trust me, bro. Didn't get any of that. Throw in there this like ridiculous thing where senators can sue for up to $500,000 per device when they've been subject to an investigation.
yeah.
Thankfully, it sounds like the House is going to vote on that and get rid of that tonight.
Mm,
So hopefully that passes because what the hell? I'm like, this is I'm really maybe I'm just naive, but like part of me really hopes this is some like weird 4D political chess move because otherwise this is the biggest like political blunder. Like this was so it feels so pointless.
well, not only that, but that whole thing with the reparations in there for anybody investigated and stuff like
Mhm.
that. One, you're a government official, if there was something to do with an insurrection, you should be under like, it'd be like me trying to say, like, I'm above reproach
Mhm.
on anything, if something were to go down at my job or anything else like that, like, no, you're never above reproach. But it was almost like them flexing, the Republicans flexing at Democrats saying there are bitches
Yeah.
and showing the American people that at the end of the day, Schumer then will roll over and expose their belly.
Yeah.
And that's because it was pointless to add it in there.
Right. That's what I don't get. That and there's also the thing about hemp products that's going to now be on the ballot for 2026, which could be a gift to Democrats. Because if that's going to be on the ballot, that is something that really the country, both parties want that.
Yeah, that actually comes, from McConnell, from my understanding, and that is because
The liquor.
his biggest donors are whiskey
Mhm.
people, and they think it's everybody using THC has reduced their sales. They're no longer alcoholics.
Well, they also can't sell in Canada.
Yeah, and that shows you right there why money needs to be removed from politics. It was not about what's better for the people. Yeah, it was really ridiculous and really silly to even try to slide those things in, or even let them get away with it.
Yeah.
I don't know why you said yes. We should just doubled down and said no.
I mean, I will say this though. I think it's supposed to take effect next year. That's going to put it on the ballot for the midterms.
Yeah.
And I do think that is something that the Democrats really need to push for because that is something that has bipartisan support from the people.
People need to get out and vote.
Yeah.
Get out and exercise your rights.
And
Like, end of story.
speaking of senile old men, Trump's behavior and Biden Biden was not in the greatest of health. I'm the first person to admit that. He was way too old for office. But the same people who attacked Biden relentlessly for his cognitive and physical abilities are just seeming to ignore the fact that this man seems to be sundowning right in front of our eyes. I mean, he has gotten, completely unhinged.
They lost that argument years ago at Confefe. When that man couldn't even write a coherent sentence on Truth Social or even Twitter at that time.
We all had a typo before. Autocorrect has screwed us before and made things look ducking ridiculous. But it's a constant
Yeah,
thing.
and it's gotten worse.
I almost prefer him to have like minor spelling errors than saying the things he's saying. Like even just look at that. meeting with the Saudi Arabian crown prince. He went off on a reporter for asking a very valid question. Do not how dare you be rude to my guest? And then saying that the guy
Called one of them a piggy when they asked
yeah,
about Epstein, "Shut up, you piggy." I'm like, "What?
yeah,
Who says like, what president says that? That is so and then who talks to people like that?
right?
Why is that acceptable?" I remember when, like, Obama got blasted for a tan
Oh god, the
suit.
Dijon mustard. Remember the Dijon
Oh
mustard?
god. Like, the silliest things, and yet they're just like, "Yeah, whatever,"
I mean, the fact that he not only yeah, Trump the reporter asked about Jamal Khashoggi. Please forgive me if I'm butchering that name. Trump's own CIA said that it was very likely the Saudi crown prince ordered that kill. And the fact that Trump just was like, no, 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 that did not happen. That never happened. Like this person has been implicated in 9/11. This person has been tied to all of these horrible things. And then Trump is just sitting there rolling out the red carpet for him, having, this big gala in his honor and then for him to say, people didn't, and this is a quote, he said Khashoggi was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman you're talking about, whether you like him or didn't like him. Things happen, but the crown prince knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that.
There's a lot of doubt there because whether he knew about it before or after, that's semantics.
Mhm.
He's the crown prince. He's going to know these things because it happened. They have to for political reasons. You're not so he's either calling the crown prince just an idiot, like you don't know anything that's happening in your country, and
Oh no,
completely
no,
yeah.
he was
No,
sitting
that's
there.
what I'm saying. Like there's one two sides. Is like either he's covering for him or he's calling the crown prince a
No, he wants to be
yeah.
that, like
Oh
with
yeah.
all the gold adorn, or the gold in quotes, the likely spray painted
It's
shit
Home
from
Depot, like,
Home
he's like,
Depot.
"Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah," when was it Megyn Kelly or was somebody was asking him, "Did
yeah.
you get this from Home Depot?" or whatever?
So those
Yeah,
never gets things from Home Depot.
and
Like
literally people found the
back.
exact, like, fake
You
molding
can't fake
pieces.
gold. Like, have you ever heard of gold leaf in your gold spray paint, dude? Like,
Yeah,
oh my God. But yeah, it's terrifying though to think that the president of the United States is allowed to get away with acting so unpresidential.
because unfortunately, our founding fathers never accounted for this because it's always been the fact that somebody would be of a proper moral standing, and they would never do these types of things. The office was considered sacred, that you would never do this, and that there was a decorum and a manner in which you held yourself, and because you were representing every citizen, and that's not who Trump is, and that's I think what's so embarrassing about it.
And I will say this now, I don't know if it's his age or just the fact that he doesn't have to worry about reelection, but he has been so much more unhinged than his first term. Like I think it was a combination. His first term, he still had a oh, what's it called when you have a he still had a bench. He had a bench of people. So like if you stood up again, he'd fire you and another person would replace he went through I mean, how many people did he go through in his administration? Had to have been at least 100.
A
Had to have been.
lot. He went through a lot.
But he at least had some people who were somewhat qualified, somewhat so I'm using that term lightly, somewhat
He
qualified.
still had a lot of training wheels in place though,
Yeah,
because there was an infrastructure that wasn't stripped out by Doge.
yeah. And he also had he had to run for reelection. So
Mhm.
he at least cared to make people happy a little bit. He really doesn't give a damn anymore. He got what he needed, and that is now he's got unbridled power, and I don't know if it's like I said, it could be his age and he's just getting senile, which that's a whole other discussion, or it's that he has surrounded himself with nothing but true loyalists. The trading wheels are off, and he has the only qualification is that you're loyal to him. That's his only qualification for his cabinet positions.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I think he's being enabled a lot of it because he does have nothing but loyalists around him. And honestly, I think he's at the end of the day, he's going to be the scapegoat for that regime of like, oh, well, this is everything. Trump did everything, when in the background, they're like the person just cheered him on, going, yeah, you can do whatever you want, buddy. Like, we got the Supreme Court. Who's going to hold you accountable? And I think this is like him mask off, like fully, like, this is the Trump. This is the Trump that like, Mary Trump said, "This is the bully. This is the bad guy. This is how bad he can get." And this is like his teacher, his primary school teacher, that was like, "He's
See,
nothing
I
but a
forgot
bully.
about her.
He's nothing but a pompous bully." And I think this is what people are truly seeing with him calling people names and just completely like He's been told, like, nobody can hold you accountable.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he has surrounded himself with nothing but loyalists. My question is, do we think that he actually knows what's going on in the world? Because from what I'm seeing, every speech is the same same exact talking points. This time last year, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country in the world. We've brought in X number of trillion dollars from the tariffs. It changes every day. This time last year, the Democrats they wanted transgender for everyone, which still I don't understand what that means.
Yeah.
But he uses the same exact talking points every single speech he does. And I'm genuinely wondering, like I said, it's very clear he's in cognitive decline,
Yeah.
and it's scary, but this is just nuts.
Yeah. It absolutely is.
Like,
Yeah, I don't think Trump knows what's going on. I think he's fed talking points. I think he is people who just glaze him all day long. And, it kinda like remember when he was going to court and there was that one girl that was, like, printing out the news articles and he was
I was saying he has
ham-fisting
a
his
call he has a
his
girl.
Sharpies and,
Yeah.
like, going, "Yay!" on him like a child drawing. I think we're in the same energy where somebody is just glazing him news articles from Fox Entertainment, and they just essentially print out everything he wants to see and hear. That's also why he rambles, because he doesn't actually have any facts, he doesn't have any of those things. He just has feelings that he has been put into him.
And you just like it reminds me of the kid who does the project. Like you have to do a presentation that lasts for at least 5 minutes, and like
Mhm.
you only have 1 minute worth of stuff, so you just start adding like
Yeah.
you gotta up the word count. It feels like that. And it's scary to think that like nobody is reining him in. And that is genuinely terrifying. Like this man possesses the nuclear codes.
Yeah.
Super fun, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
So
it's the it's nightmare fuel that keeps you up at night.
So, on that note, we are seeing some people in government starting to push back on the president. In the last couple of weeks, I have found myself agreeing with Miss Marjorie Taylor Greene more times than I feel comfortable with. What BTF is going on with her?
Yeah, I think this is a good point to kind of take a step back and take a deep breath and remind yourself just because you agree on the end point, like we shouldn't be funding a war in Israel, the way she got there is not the same way anyone else would get there. She still is a white nationalist. It's like Nick Fuentes.
Yeah,
It's anti-Semitism.
we
Yeah.
both hate Beaver
Yeah.
Dead Yahoo. He hates him because he's an actual anti-Semite, and I
Yes.
hate him because of war crimes. Like,
Exactly. Yeah, you may both hate him, that's the end result, but how you got to the end result is completely different, and it's the same for Marge. You don't change that type of vitriol and have an epiphany. He told her he wasn't gonna recommend her for running for Senate. You look at how many times she stamped her feet at him this past year because he has left her out. And I'm like, girl, this is what you voted for. You voted for white Christian nationalist men to be in charge and for women to shut up, sit down, and not be employed and have their rights stripped away. Congrats, you are now one of us and you are reaping what you have sowed. But she still won't actually hold him accountable. You notice she waffles in between, like, oh, he's not in the files. Talk to all the victims, and they said he's not one of them. They're like, girl, mm-mm.
and now hear me out because you're going to think I'm
Yeah.
crazy when I say the first part of this. I do think that there is a part of this that is genuine in that I think most of MAGA, especially I'm talking like white collar MAGA,
Mhm.
not blue collar MAGA, white collar MAGA. So the guys and the people in DC, most of them, I feel like they're in MAGA for the grift. They know that what Trump is spouting is nonsense, but they're in it for the grift. They know what they're saying is nonsense. They know they're lying and they just genuinely don't care. They're all in it for themselves. I think she was one of the few who was genuinely duped by MAGA, by QAnon. Like she was fully bought into it. She believed that Trump was some sort of savior. She was fully into the QAnon stuff. She really, I think, genuinely believed in what she was saying. Now, you can be genuine and still be a genuinely terrible person. I'm not trying to say she's just an innocent victim.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, the racism, the misogyny, and all that stuff is still rooted in those beliefs.
Trump activated her fully.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think there's something to be said with her. Even her demeanor has changed. That aggressive, like screaming in people's faces thing that she was doing for the longest time seems to have died down. And I do think part of it is revenge to her for not being allowed to run for
Mhm.
Senate. But I do think there is something, like I said, that she genuinely feels like she's had the wool pulled over her eyes for the longest time.
That's the
She
power.
genuinely believed in Trump as the savior. She is seeing like prices are not coming down. She is seeing that tariffs obviously aren't working. She is seeing the hypocrisy when it comes to the Epstein files. She has started to see the cracks. And I think that this is her trying to have an off ramp. But I think the reason that her demeanor has changed so much, I think, is because she genuinely was one of the few who was actually duped. And she was the one who truly deeply believed in this stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas the rest of Washington, I think, is just in it for the grip.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of Washington is in it for the grift. For her, yeah, I agree with you. I think she really thought Trump was going to treat her as the exception, not the rule,
Mhm.
and that exception should be if I do all this stuff, then he's going to lift me up. And I'm going to be the top of the top, and that's not how it worked. So she got left behind, and that's where you saw her kind of stamp her feet, and then she was put over that committee over Doge
Mhm.
and stuff, and that kind of like fell flat. And then he ignored her again, and she stomped her feet and said, oh, they look at them leaving all of us out, trying to rally the girls and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I think that's where she got duped, is that she thought she was going to be the exception, that he
Mhm.
was going to elevate her.
Then how do we move forward? Because again, we're in a state where it is overwhelmingly MAGA. I mean, something we've got to think about is if we're going to make change in this state, we're going to have to find a way to work with that. We're going to have to find a way to break through the messaging because right now, we're gerrymandered to hell. We're up against a huge fight. And the question is, how do we move forward with this fractured MAGA
Well,
party?
they can't get their stuff together and they're that fractured. They're not even going to be able to win like local elections. We've ultimately just got to get people to run for these things. We know, working in the Baldwin County Executive Committee,
Mhm.
that part of the problem is we don't have people run. And so when we get to the ballots, there's nothing but red on there. I mean, how many times have you gotten to go vote and it's been nothing but Republican, because we just never have any Democrats on there. And I think that's step one, is getting people energized to do this. I think Alabama is more blue than we give it credit for. The other thing too is like getting younger folks. So my youngest, he's within a few years being able to vote. And I've already started on him. I'm like, buddy, here's how you need to start looking at this. I wish somebody had done this to me at that age,
Mhm.
but it's good for him. It's a good exercise for him and for him to understand how politics actually work. And I think that's the other thing we have to do, is we need to start working on our younger voters and get them before they get into college.
Gen Alpha and younger Gen Zs are overwhelmingly conservative. And I think Turning Point USA had a lot to do with that. The
To
Democrats are notorious for having the messaging problem. We are awful at messaging.
the parents too. You're
Yeah.
responsible for your own children, and you talked about growing up in any non-conservative home. That was in how you were shaped, because that's because you had people who were vocal about.
Yeah.
And so it starts really in our own homes, that we understand their kids and things can be scary, but it's starting those conversations and talking about how, and then getting them to participate, even if it's just in community based events. A rising tide raises all boats, and getting that mindset in at an early age is so important. And I think that's the first step. As far as MAGA, like, for me, it really depends. It depends on how much did they just check those boxes and they just aren't very political, or did they buy in? I see them all over social media saying nasty things.
Well, I think MAGA also, from a messaging standpoint, I think where MAGA did something right, and I'm
Mhm.
talking going back to like 2015, they did a really good job of speaking simple language to people because not everyone is super politically engaged. It's important that we get people politically engaged, but a lot of people aren't.
Or not.
And obviously it was all propaganda and it's the same thing that happened in 1930s Germany. You're special, you're perfect, your problems are not your fault. They're because of
Exactly.
this other group that's below you. They did a good job of speaking to people in a language they understood. Like I remember after this past election, I was
Mhm.
explaining to somebody how these tariffs were going to negatively impact the housing market.
Yeah.
And this other agent in my office was like, well, aren't they going to bring jobs back to America? I said, there's not a bunch of like empty factories just sitting around ready for us to start up. And she's like, well, I thought the other country paid the tariff. And I explained to her, no, this is how the tariffs work. She's like, well, why didn't anyone tell us that? I do wish during the debate between
Mhm.
Kamala and Trump that she had stopped to say, look, this is why this won't work. She shouldn't have had to because that was her time to get her platforms across and her message across. It shouldn't be just fact checking. But that is something the Democrats have done a really poor job at is that they have assumed that everybody is as politically engaged as they are. And they're not. And Trump spoke to people in a way that they understood. And he made him feel like, again, the American exceptionalism, it's not your fault, it's because of
Mhm.
this, blah, 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 which
We're
was all
awesome. Blah blah
nonsense.
blah.
But he spoke in a way that people understood and it got them energized and it got them into politics when they had never been engaged before. And there is something we can learn from that. But the question is, how do we achieve that?
I wish we had an army of Katie Porters with their little
With the
whiteboards
white,
going around and saying it in simple terms. Let's talk about these social programs. So let's talk about SNAP. SNAP's a really good example
yeah,
of where people think it's just people scamming off the system and it's just wasteful dollars.
yeah.
Well, it's not. Every dollar that we invest into SNAP has a whole life cycle that goes into our economy, and it supports the farmers and generates income for them, which benefits everybody.
Oh,
But
it's
then
USA. Why are we sending all this money overseas? No, we were buying the product from American farmers to send overseas,
correct,
thus stimulating the economy.
correct, and in how each one of these programs, like putting money into Head Start.
Mhm.
Yeah, I loved it when she broke that down. Like every X amount of dollars, we get X amount of dollars back. I think if we break things down like that, because most people don't realize how that actually works. What they think is that our taxes go into black holes, and that's not true. And I think it's really getting in there, but you've got to start young. And that really is where we vote locally. So, like our county board of education, our state board of education can then get the proper programs in school around economics, actual economics. My son's very fortunate to be in an advanced placement classes this year, and he's taking civics in middle school, and they're learning about all the branches of government. Some of the things that she's teaching them are very poignant on and about what's currently happening without being super political, but you can tell that she's educating them on how it works. What people's opinions are about policy, that's different. But when we deal with MAGA, they're delulu.
I want to get back to where we're arguing about policy. I want to get back to those days where
Yeah.
we can debate policy and not what is reality and what isn't. This year, I have tried to dial back from like arguing with people in MAGA because right now the sun is out and the sun is shining and there's no rain. I might think it's a little bit too warm. You might think it's a little bit too cool. We can argue back and forth about whether we think it's a nice day out or not.
Correct.
But if you're going to sit here and tell me that it's pouring rain and I'm seeing sun, we can't have a productive discussion because you and I aren't existing in the same reality. And there is so many things that like I've seen MAGA believe in that is just false. I don't want illegal immigrants spread Medicaid and Medicare. They don't. They can't. And that's where, we have really failed. How many Americans could pass a basic civics test right now?
Oh, very, very few. I mean,
I think you should be able to answer a 10-question civics test to be able to vote.
I know, right? And the funny thing is that these immigrants, they keep chirping about know more about our civics than they do. You know why? Because they were tested on it. It's like they
I
advanced
would
the whole
love for them to
test.
do a social experiment where they sent out the American citizenship test to a bunch of white Americans just to see how many could pass it. I would love to see that. And, that's the thing is, I really hope for us to achieve with this is to bring a little bit of truth out there and really put out there like what is actually happening because so many people have been blinded. But I think we've got to get back to truth. And I don't know if it's, I think teaching media literacy needs to be a huge thing because I think how quickly the internet evolved has really been a huge thing because people don't know how to vet a real source versus propaganda, satire, a blog.
Exactly.
I think we need to go back to that. But there's a lot of things we're going to need to do if we're going to move forward. And that's going to have, it's got to be rooted in truth.
Well, how many times do you see people passing around like fake AI pictures, and it
My
would even say
God.
created by Sora, and they didn't realize what Sora was, and it's like, my God, like come on, guys, this is a fake AI video. Dude has like 8 fingers on one hand, like come
Yeah,
on.
like, why does that person have two arms on
Yeah.
their left side?
It's just
Clearly not real.
exactly, and it's like, how do you look this stuff up? How does
Mhm.
this happen? But yeah, I think someone said it best when they said MAGA is somebody who's willing to eat a shit sandwich on the off chance that somebody on the left may, not that they may smell their breath at some point in the future. Like that is literally where
Yeah.
we're at with them when we come to this mentality. They are willing to like just debase themselves and go through hell. They'll cry about it, but they'll continue doing it just for the sheer fact that it may hurt someone they don't like.
And I think that that's a really fair point because what I see a lot of times, and I'm talking about, Facebook comment sections and things like that. And I see it even from congressmen, from white collar MAGA billionaires, the oligarchs, the tech bros, the people who are actively doing things to harm the country at this
Yeah.
point and harm people. One of the big messaging things is owning the libs. That's it. It's not about anything that's really important or real. It's owning the lib. Us versus them thing. I do think that we're seeing that really, it's become kind of the last thing they have to cling to is to own the libs.
Yeah.
And that's probably the scariest part to me is how do we move forward with people and with a group that has made so much of their identity just trying to beat us?
Yeah, and I would say for the biggest part, if you're MAGA and you're listening to this, you can be angry. Just stop and literally do this one thought exercise. Think about everything right now, especially in our state. For years, for many, many years, you have been in control, full control. Are we winning yet? Have we won? How are we in education? How are we, and even outside, because Baldwin County is a unique little bubble,
Hmm.
and we're talking about the rest of the state. Are we winning? And the answer is no. All these red states, are you winning? You've been in power. Like you have our current government right now. Are you winning? And if that answer is no, then you need to take a deep breath, go outside, touch some grass, and learn that we are not your enemy. We want what you feel that somebody else is getting. We want it for everybody, but it's your side stopping it from you getting it, not us. We want you to have it too.
A lot of us want the same things.
Yeah. I don't care if you're a billionaire. I want you to have access to food.
I want a healthy middle class.
Yeah. We all want the same thing. I want money in your pocket.
Yeah.
I don't want my money going to some faceless corporation.
I want the middle class to be able to not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah. I want what my grandparents had.
Mhm.
My grandfather was a Navy man. He was in the military and he taught, and they lived up in Illinois for a while.
Yeah.
Because he taught new recruits out of that naval base up there in Illinois and right outside of Chicago. They had 8 kids between him and my grandmother, 8 children. They were able to put food on the table. He was able to buy her multiple houses. He was able to put 2 cars in that garage. They didn't live a high, nice life, but they damn sure lived a nice,
Yeah.
comfortable middle class.
My dad retired at 52.
Yeah, my grandmother didn't work.
I'll be lucky if I get to retire at 92.
They came back and they bought a nice little house, but he worked at Degussa. And when he passed on in the late 80s, um, he was in his mid 60s. He passed young. He still left my grandmother a pension from Degussa. Those no longer exist. Those went away. Like
We're
I can
millennials. We'll
imagine.
never like. I'm at the point where I'm like, I'll never be able to retire. Like,
Yeah,
I'm just at this point. I just want to be able to like.
I've had to restart my life like 3 different times over one little hiccup, like clawing our way up. And like
Yeah.
we get there, we do everything we're told we're supposed to do. Go to school, work extra hard. Like I was working 15, 16-hour days, do everything we're supposed to do. So I always ask them, like, are you winning yet? Really, like
Mhm.
honestly, not owning the libs, not doing all this. How are you doing?
And I think that's got to be our messaging going forward is having these conversations with people and trying to make them meaningful and meet them where they're at in a way. And I'm not talking about holding their hand. I'm talking about asking them the questions, finding out what is it they truly want. Because right now I feel like so many people have just been fed all these things that just are complete nonsense.
You can blame Rush Limbaugh and all of them that started this stuff,
Oh yeah.
this horrible rhetoric of like them versus us, and it's
Mm.
just been drilled in for a very long time. So I think that's it. But I think our younger generation is going to see the generation that is just leaving school here recently and are potentially
Gotcha. And
graduating,
they're in their 20s.
yeah,
Kind of getting it.
and getting out of college because they're the ones that are on social media right now
Mhm.
going, I can't find a job. I just graduated. Like I have a master's and I did everything and I can't find a job. So I think they're going to have a big influence on Alpha and we just need to keep supporting them because I think that's where we're going to see the most turnover.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's where, there's so many things that need to happen in order for us to really move forward as a society. And like I said, a big thing is the messaging, and a big thing is the conversations we're going to have with MAGA and with the right going forward, because we've got to work together if we're going to get out of this. If elder millennials ever want to be able to live a comfortable, peaceful life, we've got to work through this. So, with all this doom and gloom, we can celebrate one win. We had the ultimate FAFO this week. So, 3 judges, 1 Trump appointee, 1 Obama appointee, and 1 Reagan appointee just ruled that the new Texas legislative map is unconstitutional. Meaning that not only are they not going to be allowed to do it, but because of Prop 50, the Democrats might have just picked up 5 seats in California.
Yeah.
So, I think that also shows us something is that when the enemy is not playing by the rules, we can't play by the rules. Say what you will about Gavin Newsom. He's been the one to stand up and say, all right, you want to play? Let's go.
Exactly.
And he did it the right way, having the state vote on it, which is going to make it a lot harder for them to, for
I
the
think they already
courts to.
tried to sue and the courts was like, nah, bruh, and threw it
Yeah, I
out.
mean, I am completely against gerrymandering. I don't like the principle of there being a gerrymandering
Right.
war. Do you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's really funny that it's backfiring?
Yes, absolutely. I think this once again is another karma, the celestial saying, "Hey, time to pay up. time to pay the piper.
It would have probably backfired anyway, but it is really nice to see that not only are they not allowed to do it, but California is basically
Yeah.
going to give us a majority in the House for that. In Alabama, the
Yep.
state Senate,
Said nope.
they said, nope, that map's not going to work. Indiana refused to gerrymander
You
for
know,
you.
I have actually been, I would say overall, outside of the Supreme Court, outside of them, when it comes to the actual state courts and your lower courts, they are doing a good job, regardless of what party they're with, actually holding the line and
Mhm.
saying, yeah, no, these are not really games we're going to play. And it feels good to know that
That's not gone.
that's not gone. Yeah. That there are still like reasonable people that understand the assignment, and it's not about left versus the right, it's about what's right or wrong. And that's what we really need to get back to in what we would expect from both sides when they're in those positions where they have to look at things. It's not about my party, that does not exist. It's about what's right or wrong. And that was like a huge win, and even Mississippi, even though those were drawn out for blue, the fact that they were able to get people to run is just fantastic. And hopefully this was what keeps people energized.
Speaking of keeping people energized, want to play a game? I've got a fun game this week. This is called Are They or Aren't They on the List?
Ooh.
So I'm going to give you a name,
Okay.
and you're going to tell me if you think they're on the Epstein list, and then you're going to give me a name.
Okay.
So first one is JD Vance. Do you think he's on the Epstein list? These are all our opinions.
Yeah.
These are not rooted in fact.
No.
Just saying.
Yeah. No. I would say yeah. Yeah. Because the rumor mill, and I don't know how proven it is. The rumor mill is that Peter Thiel partook, and
Also, lovely couches there.
yeah, exactly. I'm
Lovely
sure there are
furniture.
a lot of couches for old couch fucker there to get all up on. Yeah, I have absolutely no doubt because
I
he
just
seems
wondered
like
if
he's
he
a
was too
follower.
young. I don't know if he would have been like in the group necessarily. Like, was he important enough during that time to have been
No,
invited?
because I don't think Peter Thiel found him until like
That's
2014,
my thing is I'm
15.
wondering if he was too young. Like,
But did it actually stop? Because, like Epstein was allowed out on work release. It's like he was in jail. He was not in
mhm,
prison. And he served a time. He was convicted, what, in 2008 of, of prostitution,
mhm.
trafficking a little bit.
He
But
got
that
like
was
a
at the
minor.
state level.
Yeah.
It was like he served like he got a sweetheart deal. It was like 18 months. But the federal case got opened because of the money laundering. And that wasn't until much later. So I would say yes. I would say if that if he did things during that time, JD Vance was known and would have been part of that.
I'm gonna say no, not because of like some moral aptitude kind of thing, but more of a I don't think he was cool enough yet in their eyes.
That's fair.
All right, you give me one.
All right. George W. Bush.
I've actually thought about this one. Someone asked me this the other day, and that's how I came up with this game. If George W. Bush was, I feel like he was just there for the salad bar. Like, I could totally see him, like, being in the Bahamas on vacation, like, with Laura, like, in a boat. They're like, "Hi, look, there's Bill's boat. Let's stop and say hi." And, like, shows up on the island, has no idea what's really going on. Like, I feel like if he was there, he was too dense to know.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I could see him accidentally going on, like, a side quest to Epstein Island and having no clue what was actually happening.
No, no, yeah, absolutely not. He'd definitely be all about the food and just
Yeah, like,
completely
just
oblivious.
totally oblivious to everything, but, like, somehow got him, like, kinda like Forrest Gumping his way around, like, just
Mhm.
wandering into
Yeah.
the situation. I could totally see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Alright, so let's see. Diddy.
You know how they said, he didn't buy, baby oil in bulk like that? I think it was left over from
I say,
from
I
the
think
island,
that was his
from
competition.
because there's been a number of celebrities and stuff that have been known to circulate on that list anyway.
That's true, yeah, I think Diddy, if he wasn't there, he knew about it. Just all,
For
like,
me, it's
craziness.
just visiting the island. I'm not actually talking about doing the
Yeah,
touch
that's
on
true, yeah.
anybody, like that this is
Mhm.
just, like, have they visited?
You don't
Let's
have to.
see. What about Ted Cruz?
I don't think he has been to Epstein Island. Not because he like is this great person, but I don't think anyone likes him enough to invite him. Like, I just can't see anyone being like, "Hey, let's call Ted up." Like, no one likes that guy. No one likes Ted Cruz.
So if I was to replace Ted Cruz with Ron DeSantis being in
Ooh,
Florida.
ooh,
Yeah, and all the
ooh.
scandal and all the things he's done.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because there's a reason why Trump calls him Ron DeSanctimonious.
Well, that was just because Ron DeSantis, so
Yeah.
he had to ran against him in the primary.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say Ron DeSantis. I don't think he's ever been, but I think he knew what was going on.
He seems to me like he wanted to be part of the cool kids club and just
Mhm.
was never allowed.
Yeah, that's what like Ted Cruz, same thing. Like, I just can't see anyone inviting him anywhere.
I know, I
Like,
know.
he's
I forget
so
he exists sometimes. Yeah.
nobody likes him.
Canada doesn't like him either. They're like, "Nah,
Like,
nah, you
Ted
can keep
Cruz
him."
doesn't even like Ted Cruz. But yeah, no, Ron DeSantis, I don't know. I would say he might have known about it, but I don't think he actually ever went. I don't think he became important enough until after the fact.
Yeah.
Um, Obama. This one.
I would say no, and not just because if you look at Obama and you look at Michelle, they are just what we would think of as the American family. They're so involved with their kids. They're, family people. You didn't no matter how much the Republican Party hated him, they couldn't dig up anything on this man.
That's true.
Like
That's why the trans
nothing.
suit was such a scandal for them.
Like not even in his college years. Because him and Michelle have just been together for so long.
Mhm.
They have kids. Like he just does not strike me as somebody who would even entertain that. Or and Lord knows Michelle was there at the island.
She'd kick his ass.
She would destroy that place
Yeah.
because she feels to me like a girl's girl.
I'll be clear. If Obama was,
Mm.
I would be heartbroken.
Yeah.
But he should still see justice.
Absolutely.
Everybody, I don't care who you are, Democrat, Republican, Bill Clinton. I would be more shocked if Bill Clinton wasn't on the list than if he was. Let's be straight here.
Yeah, and shooting this back and forth, this is more of how we feel about them,
Yeah.
not actual reality. Because, like you said, if they're on the list, I don't care who's on that list. And I think that's the big defining piece between the right and the left is that we don't. Because I've seen that argument. What are you going to do if Bill Clinton's on the list?
Oh, no, I got to throw out my Bill Clinton T-shirt, my Bill Clinton bumper sticker, my Bill Clinton flag, my Bill
I
Clinton
know.
tattoo, my Bill Clinton collectibles, my Bill Clinton bobblehead. Like, we don't idolize our politicians.
Correct. Yeah, we treat them like they are. They're politicians. They work for us. They're not deities. They are civil servants that we vote into office that are supposed to work for us. I have one for you.
All right.
What about old Mitch McConnell?
Oh boy. Little turtle head. He fell the other day, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Someone asked him a question. He just went
Fell.
fell.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
one way to avoid a question.
I know, right?
Again, Mitch McConnell, I'm going to put him in that category with Ted Cruz. I can't see anyone inviting him to a party. Well, that is the end of that game. We hope y'all had fun with us tonight. Again, thank you so much for being here for our inaugural episode of Bama Blue Dots.
Yes.
We hope y'all will We hope y'all will tune in next time. We're going to post this every single week on Thursdays, and we really hope that y'all will get involved in your local Democratic chapters, local communities, and it's time for us to really start making our way forward and not being just blue dots anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's make, can we turn this state blue overnight? No, we can sure get it to a shade of purple.
It's really, truly about being fearless. If you let the bullies win, if you live in fear, and I'm not scared. You just got to find your community. You've got to look for them. You can't just live in ignorance because that's how we keep down the same path. If you voted Republican historically, but you're looking around going, what in the world's happening? Come over and just start doing things. You don't have to announce that you voted for Trump. You don't have to do anything. We want to see action because that's how we're going to judge you is what you're currently doing. I believe in redemption, but redemption comes with action, not just words.
Right.
Everyone's allowed to make mistakes, and it's owning them and making that change that defines you.
And start having conversations within your community. Well, let's see what happens the next few days now that we're getting the Epstein files. It's going to be a fun week.
It really is.
So our next episode will be right before Thanksgiving. So excited to be doing this with you.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye, guys.